Hola, hello everyone, and welcome to this tutorial on las conversaciones. This tutorial, however, is a practice tutorial. So if you didn't watch our first video on las conversaciones, I recommend that you go back and watch that tutorial, practice the skills on your own, and then come back to this video so that you can really practice together with me. But it's important that you see the vocabulary first, you practice the pronunciation. I even recommend that you keep a notebook so you can copy down the vocabulary and grammar that I teach you, and you can write down the practice that we do. That way you have something to study throughout your language learning journey. So again, welcome. If you didn't watch the first tutorial, head on back to the channel and find Las Conversaciones, the first tutorial, and then come back and join us to practice. Vamos a practicar. Let's begin our practice session. So first, you're going to be challenged here to make a conversation. And it's a conversation between two students on the first day of school at 8 in the morning. Una conversación entre dos alumnos en el primer día de la escuela a las 8 de la mañana. Una conversación, a conversation, entre, between, dos alumnos, two students, en el primer día, on the first day, de la escuela, of school, a las 8 de la mañana, at 8 in the morning. So in this example here, we have Ana and Miguel, and they are the two students. It's the first day of school. They're talking for the first time, and it's your job to make a conversation between them. So my recommendation is to pause this video and work on creating a conversation. Again, I suggest a notebook, a piece of paper, whatever you can do to keep yourself organized through these practice sessions. Now, you might be saying to yourself, I don't know too much vocabulary yet. How am I going to make a conversation? Keep it simple. Start with greetings, have them exchange their feelings and emotions, and have them say goodbye. Now, are conversations that brief and to the point when you really speak to someone? Not very often. But in this case, since we're beginners, that's what we're going to start with. And as we continue to study Spanish, we're going to be able to add more and more and more to our conversations. So for now, hit pause, create your conversation in Spanish between Ana and Miguel. And when you're ready to review with me, hit play, and I'll see you on the next slide with a full example. Good luck. Buena suerte. All right, we are back with a full example on the screen. Now, your conversation is not going to be identical to mine, but it's important for you to see a perfect example, meaning grammar used properly, vocabulary used properly, so that you can compare your creation to that example piece. You might see something on the screen that makes you say, oops, I made a mistake here, or maybe it would have been better if I said that. If there's something in the conversation that you created that you have a question about, please write it in the comments below. Maybe even share your conversation in the comments below, and we can discuss it together in the comment section. Now, as we go through these example conversations, I'm going to use dos alebrijes, two alebrijes de Mexico, from Mexico. If you've ever seen the movie Coco, about El Día de los Muertos, about the Day of the Dead, you have seen alebrijes before. But I love Mexican culture, Mexican history, and these are two alebrijes from the beautiful country of Mexico. So they are going to be my characters today of Ana and Miguel. All right, so Ana's on this side, Miguel's on this side. Let's hear their conversation. Hola, mucho gusto. Buenos días. ¿Cómo estás? Yo estoy nervioso. ¿Y tú? Yo estoy tranquila. Nos vemos. Hasta pronto. All right, so that was a great conversation between Ana and Miguel. Let's break it down together. All right, so Ana first says, Hola, mucho gusto. Hello, nice to meet you. And hola is a great way to start this conversation, just a general greeting. And mucho gusto is also great because she's saying nice to meet you. It's the first day of school. They've never spoken before. Great way to open the conversation. Miguel continues with buenos días. Now remember, the prompt told us this was a las 8 de la mañana, at 8 in the morning. So Miguel did a great job by using buenos días. He wouldn't want to use buenas tardes or buenas noches because it's not the afternoon or the evening. Buenos dias is a perfect choice, stating good morning. Next, Ana asked the question, ¿Cómo estás? Now, what is she asking? How are you? But how is she asking? In an informal manner. Remember, ¿Cómo estás with the S ending is informal, whereas ¿Cómo está, if we had gotten rid of this S, would have been formal. And that wouldn't fit here. They're two students talking to each other. They would definitely be speaking in a more informal manner, right? So Ana did a great job by using ¿Cómo estás? Miguel answers with Yo estoy nervioso. He properly added the O on the end since he is a male. Nervioso. If this was a female speaking, it would have to be nerviosa, right? Some of our adjectives are gender specific. So Miguel did a great job there. Then he asks her, ¿Y tú? And you? How are you doing? Great job on Miguel's behalf because he used the informal way of asking. He did not say y usted. That would not have worked well here because, again, student to student, you really wouldn't be speaking formally. Ana replies, Yo estoy tranquila. I am calm. I am tranquil. She did a great job by using the feminine ending, using the A there. And then both Miguel and Ana end with a farewell. Nos vemos, see ya, we'll see each other, and hasta pronto, see you soon, right? They'll probably see each other later in the school day. This was a great example. How did you do? Check your work. Make sure you started with a nice greeting. If you used a time-sensitive greeting, make sure it was buenos dias, since it's morning time. Make sure they were speaking to each other in an informal manner, right? A formal manner really wouldn't work well in this scenario. When they were stating how they were feeling, if they were gender-specific adjectives, make sure you had the O ending for Miguel and the A ending for Ana, and that they ended their conversation with a farewell. All right, let's try another example. Una conversación entre el jefe y la empleada a las 2 de la tarde. Una conversación, a conversation, entre, between, el jefe, the boss, y, and, la empleada, the employee, a las 2 de la tarde, at 2 in the afternoon. So we're making a conversation here between a boss and an employee in the afternoon time, right? At 2 in the afternoon. Now, we haven't learned this yet. This will come in a later tutorial. But el, for the, in this scenario, is masculine. And la, here with la empleada, the employee, is feminine. So we know that the boss in this scenario is male, masculine, and the employee in this scenario is feminine. So by looking at our names, we have Fernanda and Steve. We can take an educated guess that Fernanda is the employee, la empleada, and that Steve is el jefe. Jefe means boss. All right. So as you're working on your conversation, keep that in mind. Fernanda is an employee of Steve's. Steve is the boss. And that they're having a conversation at 2 in the afternoon. So again, I suggest pausing this video, working in your notebook or on your sheet of paper to craft this conversation. All right. You have Fernanda, then Steve, then Fernanda, then Steve, Fernanda, Steve, Fernanda, Steve, Fernanda. Try to fill up every line. Do the best you can. Yours might be a little shorter, a little longer, depending upon your vocabulary. And then when you're ready to compare, hit play again, and then I'll meet you on the next slide with a full example. Good luck. Buena suerte. All right, we are back here with a full completed example of una conversación entre el jefe y la empleada a las 2 de la tarde. Tenemos Fernanda y Steve. We have Fernanda and Steve, employee and boss. Again, this is Fernanda in this conversation. This is Steve. Let's hear how they do. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. ¿Cómo está usted? Estoy bien. ¿Y tú? Yo estoy feliz. ¿Qué hay de nuevo? Nada. Nos vemos. Adiós. All right, that was a great conversation between Fernanda and Steve. Let's break it down a little bit together. So, first, we have both Fernanda and Steve starting with buenas tardes as their greeting. This makes sense because it's a las 2 de la tarde, at 2 in the afternoon, right? So they wouldn't want to say buenos dias or buenas noches. Those time sensitive greetings would not work here. Buenas tardes is your best greeting if you're using a time sensitive one. You also could have used hola or buenas perfectly at this point in the conversation. Next, Fernanda asks, ¿Cómo está usted? Now, think back to our tutorial. Is that formal or informal? If you said formal, that's correct. And that would make sense here, right? Because Fernanda is la empleada. She's the employee talking to Steve, el jefe, the boss. So it makes sense that she would want to speak formally, especially to be polite. So she chose ¿Cómo está usted? Do you remember which word in this question technically can be left out? If you said usted, you're correct. You can say ¿Cómo está usted? Or you can just say ¿Cómo está? And they're both correct. So Fernanda did a great job there, speaking formally to her boss. Steve replies, Estoy bien. Now there's a word he omitted there that some people use. Can you remember what it is? If you said yo, you're correct. Some people would say yo estoy bien, I am well. Others would say estoy bien, I am well. It's the same thing. And if you remember from our tutorial, it's because yo is implied when you say estoy, because you can only be talking about yourself to use estoy. You can't use that with anyone else. So either way is correct, but Steve chose to go with estoy bien. And then he asked Fernanda, ¿Y tú? Now, think about that. Is ¿Y tú formal or informal? If you said informal, you're right. Now, some people might say, well, wait, shouldn't Steve also speak to Fernanda formally? Well, in some work scenarios, that might be true, and that would be correct. In others, in this case, Steve was comfortable speaking to her informally. Maybe Fernanda's worked there a long time and they have a close work relationship, and he feels comfortable addressing her that way. Then it's perfectly fine. In other workplaces, maybe it's always formal and formal on both sides. So this really depends, right? It might be one way in one work scenario and another way in a different work scenario. So whatever you think would be appropriate here, you can use. But Steve felt comfortable saying y tú and you informally to Fernanda. She replies, Yo estoy feliz. See, this is what we're talking about. Steve chose not to use yo up here, but Fernanda did. And they're both right. All right, they're both right. Either way works. And feliz, happy, is gender neutral. So Fernanda didn't have to worry about a feminine ending. Anyone can say feliz. Steve decided to go one step further here and ask an additional question. ¿Qué hay de nuevo? What's new? Maybe they're coming back from a weekend, a vacation, a holiday, and wanted to check in with her, see if anything was new. And Fernanda had a simple reply of nada, nothing, nothing's new. And then they both closed with nos vemos and adios. That was a great example. How did you do? How did your conversation turn out? Compare it to mine. Again, I don't expect it to be identical or even the same at all, but make sure you have a similar flow, starting with a greeting, have them exchange emotions, have closure at the end with them saying goodbye to each other. Make sure you're looking out for proper punctuation, right? Upside down question marks, regular periods, regular question marks. And you're also looking out for those words that have letters with accent marks. The more you pay attention to that in the beginning, your future self will thank you, right? When they become more important later on. Great job. Well done, everybody. All right, let's try one more practice conversation. Una conversación entre dos amigos en un restaurante a las 7 de la noche. Una conversación, a conversation, entre, between, dos amigos, two friends, en un restaurante, in a restaurant, a las 7 de la noche, at 7 at night, 7 p.m. All right, so we have Tino and Rocco, and they're having a conversation. They're friends at a restaurant at 7 at night. Notice down here we did put in a little break to pretend that they're eating dinner. All right, so let's not put any writing here. Let's just have it before their dinner and after their dinner. Once again, pause the video, work in your notebook or on your sheet of paper to create this conversation between Tino and Rocco, two friends enjoying dinner 7 at night in a nice restaurant. And when you're ready, hit play, and I'll meet you on the next slide with a complete example conversation that's all finished and ready to review. Good luck. Buena suerte. All right, here is our full conversation example ready to go. All right, here we have Tino and here we have Rocco. Let's hear their conversation. Buenas noches. Hola, buenas noches. ¿Qué tal? Yo tengo hambre. ¿Cómo estás tú? Estoy emocionado. Ciao. Hasta mañana. All right, let's take a look at their conversation. So Tino opens with buenas noches, good evening. Perfect, since we know it's 7 de la noche, 7 at night. You wouldn't want buenos dias or buenas tardes here. But like Rocco started off with, hola, a general greeting, would also work. All right, so Tino starts with good evening. Rocco replies with hello, good evening. All right, great way to start the conversation. Tino then asks, ¿Qué tal? How are you? Right? That's neither formal nor informal. It works great here at this point in the conversation. And then again, they're at a restaurant to have dinner. So Rocco comes in with, Yo tengo hambre. I'm hungry. Right? Perfect practice there of the vocabulary. That's great use of that phrase. And then he continues to ask, ¿Cómo estás tú? Is this formal or informal? If you said informal, you're right. And what word can we technically omit from here? If you said tú, you're right. So Rocco did a great job making sure he's speaking informally to his friend with ¿Cómo estás tú? He also could have omitted the tú and simply asked ¿Cómo estás? And that would have been correct as well. Tino replied, Estoy emocionado. Do you remember what that means? I'm excited, right? He's a male, so he ended this with an O. Good job there. And maybe he's excited about his meal or dessert. That would be me. I'd be excited for the dessert, right? But that would make sense. He chose not to start with yo, but he could have, right? Yo estoy emocionado or estoy emocionado. All of those options are correct. Then we were pretending that they were eating dinner. And then they finished with a goodbye, ciao, and hasta mañana, see you tomorrow. How did you do on your conversation? Was it similar to mine? Did you have many differences? Again, you can be as creative as you want. Just make sure that the flow goes in a proper order, right? Of a greeting, exchanging emotions, saying goodbye, and that grammar is correct, right? Things like buenas noches. Make sure there's an A here. Proper punctuation and accent marks. Gender specific adjectives should match the gender of the speaker. Formality should make sense in terms of the scenario given, right? All of those topics are things you need to think about when you're creating or engaging in a conversation in Spanish. But I'm proud of you. This was your first practice tutorial. I'm sure you did a great job. And even if you made mistakes, that's how we learn, right? We make a mistake, we reflect on it, we fix it, and we grow from there. Great job, everybody. Once again, thank you for coming to this tutorial on the Profe Wendy channel. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and leave comments below. I would love to see the conversations that you made so I can comment back on them, give you some feedback. I would also love comments with any questions you may have so that I could help you continue your growth learning Spanish. Gracias. Thank you so much for watching this video and engaging with me today. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video on additional conversation skills. But for now, hasta luego. Adios.